Hi, good afternoon everyone, and thanks for joining the presentation to talk about maximizing dollars for your college experience. My name is Elizabeth Coogan, and let's begin the presentation. So when I talk about college today, there are many words that I'll be using interchangeably that mean the same thing as college: higher education, post-secondary, perhaps career school, basically any education beyond high school. Maybe you're pursuing a 2-year, a 4-year degree, or even a certificate. So families recognize the importance of higher education, and unfortunately, costs are increasing, and increased costs are making students, especially low and middle income students, think that they cannot afford to go. Well, federal student aid, which is part of the U.S. Department of Education and the department that I work in, provides funding to make college a reality. As a matter of fact, this year we'll be providing $150 billion in financial aid. And just to be clear about how that aid is distributed, we give the money to schools, and then the schools disperse the money to students. The period when students weigh their options and try and figure out how to pay for college is a critical time and a great opportunity for students to increase their financial capability and improve upon what they already know. So some of you may be lucky enough to have parents that have talked to you about money and how to manage your money, or learn some things in school. Or some of you may really be starting at the very beginning and need to take steps to gain the knowledge needed to make better financial decisions to help with college, and as well as other financial decisions that will last far into the future. So what we'll be covering today, we'll be talking about the value of college and why go to college, the cost of college. I mean, if it's so expensive, is it worth going, and can you afford to go? A study done by the Department of Education's National Center for Education Statistics revealed that public institutions have increased by about 40% over the last 10 years. So that's far greater than a lot of other things in our lives are increasing. I'd like to talk about what students should know when they're entering this realm, and I'm going to really specifically deal with 3 particular concepts: budgeting, borrowing, repayment, and tools that can help you understand that. There are many, many more valuable personal financial concepts, but during this session we're going to focus on these 3 because they are particularly important for students who are in school or thinking about going to school. As I said, smart financial decisions are key to succeeding in college as well as thereafter. So let's get started. So we all agree that we would like to be employed and earn some money, and we think that going to college will probably help us to get a job. So, skipped a slide, sorry about that. But so about 60% of jobs require education beyond high school. So, and I like to include this particular slide, and it's a quote from the Secretary of Education, Jack Lew. And he says, workers who get an education beyond high school, and so that could be 4-year, 2-year certificate degree, are more likely to be employed, earn higher wages, and rise up the economic ladder. And he talks about how critical it is. And the point I like to make here is it is so critical because Secretary Lew, in fact, took time out of his day. This was right following the furlough when the government was shut down. And he went to talk about these really important points to a number of agencies in the government that are really working hard to try and teach young Americans and help them improve their financial capability. There's a website that I like to point out called mymoney.gov, and that has a lot of wonderful resources for financial decisions all throughout your life. Okay, so the next chart talks about why you should, what happened here? About going to college and getting a degree and the level of education that you have and your earnings potential. So basically, this chart shows you that education beyond high school, your earnings continue to increase and the likelihood of you being unemployed, you're less likely to be unemployed. And as you move up the ladder, you're certainly going to get more benefits for your health insurance as well as your retirement. And actually, studies have shown that people with greater education are actually healthier. Okay, so all of these benefits, though, we do know come with a price. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the cost of college, and we're going to talk about resources that can help you to understand some of the characteristics that you should be looking for. College is a big investment. It's a big investment in money and a big investment in time. So I think most of you, if you're going to make a major purchase, such as this, you can consider it a major purchase, you would take the time to do some comparison shopping. Okay, so there's lots of tools and resources out there to help with that. And this first one that I'm putting up on the screen is called College Navigator, and that is the Department of Education's college search tool. And there are over 7,500 schools that are available to you on this interactive website. The schools report their information to the Department of Education. And some of the things that you can search by are the type of school. You might be looking for a 2-year school, the type of program that you're looking to study, and there's lots of very important information that you can get by using this site. And you can also take the information from here, download it, and you can keep it on an Excel spreadsheet and use it for comparison shopping. So part of this very important tool is something called the Net Price Calculator. And I'd like to think that we're going to go to that. Okay, and the Net Price Calculator shows you that don't be afraid of the price of school based on the sticker price. Okay, the Net Price Calculator is the price after subtracting scholarships and grants that you are likely to receive by going to a school. So very often students shy away from expensive schools, but those sometimes expensive schools are those that give the most amount of aid. So the net price is what it's actually going to cost you. So it uses school data and input from the student to determine the net price. The Net Price Calculator is on the College Navigator site as well as on each college's site. And if you just go to YouTube and you put in Net Price Calculator, you'll see a lot of very helpful videos that take you through the tool and make it much easier and more digestible. If you see all of these numbers, it might be a little bit intimidating. The discussion today is really going to be a lot about concepts, okay, and not so much about numbers. So maybe some of you will be a little bit less intimidated. Okay, so another very useful tool is the College Scorecard, and that includes essential information about a particular school's cost. You can just go in and put the name of the school, and you'll get these characteristics, and it compares the costs and the graduation rate and the loan default rates to similar schools. And it shows if this school is particularly expensive, and it rates them low, medium, or high as compared to other schools. And this is also another tool that can help you compare different schools. We're looking to do comparison shopping, and the reason that we're looking to do this comparison shopping is we're trying to find something that is suitable as well as affordable. The next tool as it relates to comparison shopping that I'd like to point out is the Financial Aid Shopping Sheet. If you do an internet search on any one of these names, you immediately will come up with the shopping sheet. But if you go to the website, in which I'll mention several times towards the end of the presentation, studentaid.gov, it'll bring you to all of these tools and resources. So the Financial Aid Shopping Center was part of the administration's effort for college affordability, and this helps to standardize financial aid award letters, makes it easy to compare among different offers that you may receive. And so this points out the cost of attendance, grants, work study, and loans. And in order to accept your aid, you should consider always taking grants before loans. Okay, that's free money first. You'll see I talk about that throughout the presentation. Okay, so let's see what we've got next. So, now to get into the meat of the presentation, and that's what students should know. I think we know a lot about what students do not know, and unfortunately there are some instances where students might not even know what they don't know. But there was a survey that was done in 2011. The Department of Education and the Treasury Department put together a financial capability challenge, and about 85,000 high school students took the test about financial capability, and the national average was 69%. There are other similar reports and surveys, and most of the results are fairly bleak. So we know that we've got a lot to do, and I'm not going to talk about how much we need, the benefits of learning early and how much we should know, but we're at the point that we are now. Most of you are thinking about going to school or maybe just early on in your college career. So as I mentioned, college choice and where you go, and attendance during college provides great opportunity to get your life in gear. And so today we're going to talk about maximizing your dollars, so it's really a good place to start. So, one of the first key concepts, which just skipped over, is a budget, okay? And it sounds really like a simple term, but building a budget is a very, very crucial financial concept that will help you build decision-making skills to reach your financial as well as your academic goals. Okay, so there are a lot of people that think, some of the things I'm going to say. Have you ever said, or at least have you ever heard, that how can I budget? I hardly make enough money. I can't budget. I'm bad at math, and I'll figure it out eventually. Here's another one. Okay, I have no idea where all my money goes. How am I possibly going to budget? Because I don't have a clue. Okay, well, budgeting is key to successfully managing your finances before, during, and after school. And the value of budgeting should not be ignored. So, what is a budget? A budget is just actually a spending plan, and it helps you track your money, make informed decisions, and plan your financial goals. So it really is pretty powerful. And it's quite a simple formula. You don't have to be good at math. You just really have to be organized and take a little time to figure out your earnings, what's coming in, and your expenses, what's going out. So there are a lot of applications, so I'm not going to go through the hows and of building a budget. There are a lot of applications on the internet that help you. You can use a simple Excel spreadsheet. You can write down your expenses in a notebook. So there are a lot of resources available to you. StudentAid.gov has one as well. So the idea here is to just try and get you to understand the point of the value of a budget, because good habits early on will greatly enhance your financial well-being in the future. Okay, there are applications that banks will offer to you. So another key concept for someone going into school is you should open a bank account, okay? But I'm not going to talk about that at great lengths, but many banks have applications that can help you budget and track your money, okay? And so it's really not all about what you're spending so much, it's about what you don't spend and ways that you can curtail your spending, okay? So the challenge is getting started. But having a budget may help you in one or all of these categories. It gives you control. It eases your stress. It helps you to manage your debt. It helps you to plan. It helps you to save money. And it helps you to learn strategies to live within your means. There are a lot of students that say that they have difficulty focusing in school because of their financial troubles. So a lot of addressing those situations can begin with understanding the power of a budget and figuring out how you can take the time to get organized, get your records together, and figure out some of the ins and outs that you need to understand. Okay? And as I talk about the ins and outs, that'll bring us to the next page, which is the incoming part, where your money is coming from. So I highlighted a few terms here. I like to talk about some of those. We're talking about grants, loans, and work study. Okay, this is the money that comes from financial aid. This is the money that may be coming into you from the financial aid award letter, indicated money that was coming in. So grants is free money, loans is not. Work study is getting a job on campus and getting money paid from the federal government, which is part of your aid package. You may or may not qualify for that. And if you don't qualify for that, there's really a lot of benefit to finding a part-time job to increase the incoming part of your formula. There's lots of benefits to working part-time. I think it's great for certainly money management because money is coming in, but also to help you manage your time as well. Okay, so one of the key things in doing a budget is writing it down, okay? So most of these numbers you probably already know, but probably most of these numbers you've never taken the time to write down, and you might not know the answer to a lot of categories, but I'm sure you know the people that could help you answer, okay? The next category that we're talking about is the outgoing. Specifically when you are in college, tuition and fees is a huge part of the outgoing expense. Books and supplies. So a lot of these numbers are provided to you, estimates are provided by schools. Okay, College Board estimates that about $1,200 expense for books for a year, which is quite high. You might want to consider renting books. There's a service out there that you can rent, I believe it's 6 books for a semester and pay $200. The 3 terms that I highlighted or bolded in the outgoing category are savings, loan interest, and credit card payments. And you might think, why is savings part of my spending plan? Well, it certainly should be. Okay, and savings is a key component of a budget, and you should budget or you should plan to spend a little, to save a little bit of money each month. And so I just was reading something, and it is in fact a proven fact that if you choose not to save, you will certainly work longer, have a lower quality of life, and suffer from intergenerational stress, as well as probably intergenerational as well as your relationships. So you really should, and I'm sure many of you are struggling saying, how can I possibly save? Well, savings should be a part of your budget. And if you do save and you have a fund for savings, it can help you eliminate unnecessary borrowing. Loan interest should also be on your budget. If you pay some of your interest while you were in school, and a lot of students say, why am I getting this bill and it's giving me a small amount of interest? I'm not even sure who this is coming from and who I should pay. Paying your interest while in school and making that part of your budget will significantly reduce the amount of money that you pay back in total on your student loans. And then the last item that I mentioned on the outgoing was credit card payments. You should be tracking, and that number that's on there should not be the minimum payment. Do not make the minimum payment on a regular basis. Making the minimum payment is only making what you are buying costing you more. But one thing I would recommend in terms of maximizing your dollars, maybe not right now at the very moment in college, but for long lasting, is to get one credit card. Hold on to that credit card, because the longer you hold on to a credit card and the longer you have that quote unquote relationship with that credit card company, that will add to your score. And if you use your credit card and make the payment each month as due, that will also contribute to increasing your score, which will give you borrowing power in the future. So, we're going to talk about borrowing next. So coming from federal student aid, we cannot lose sight of FAFSA and what we're all about. And that's the free application for federal student aid. Okay, and this is the gateway really to borrowing and to getting access to that $150 billion in aid that the department has. About 57% of undergrads receive some sort of financial aid. Okay, so the FAFSA is free. You can get it at fafsa.ed.gov, studentaid.gov, as I mentioned earlier. Also will link you to FAFSA. So it's free. Don't pay anyone to help you fill it out. And you should get in there as early as you can and pay attention to your state deadlines. Okay, because some states have particular deadlines. So the earlier you get in there, the earlier you're in the queue, indicating that you want to borrow money. So it's important to pay attention. We're not going to talk a lot about the FAFSA today, and I think there are probably several sessions, and there are lots of online resources at studentaid.gov that can help you with the particulars of filling out the FAFSA. All right. I seem to have lost my next ability. All right, sorry guys. Having a little technical difficulties here. Okay, borrowing. Taking on student debt is a major financial decision, and bad financial decisions may have lifelong consequences. But student debt can be a very worthwhile investment that can help students to receive the skills and training they need to compete in the global economy. So there's a couple of tips as it relates to borrowing and as it relates to federal student aid specifically. Is federal loans first. You should understand the difference between federal and private loans. And if you go to studentaid.gov, there's a whole list of reasons why you should consider federal first. But one of the very sort of one that everybody knows or should know is that the Department of Federal Student Aid offers a lot of flexible repayment options. Okay, so we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but you should acknowledge the benefit of federal loans first. The next one says borrow smart. Well, of course, you're like, of course I want to borrow smart, but I think borrowing smart sometimes means don't borrow everything that is offered to you. Okay, you should consider accepting less loans that are offered to you if you don't need all the money. Many students get excited, they see what they qualify, they sign, yes, isn't that wonderful? I can get this aid, not taking into account that this money is going to have to be repaid and what it's going to cost them. An interesting survey by the College Savings Foundation said that 94% of students are concerned about debt burdens, only 25% projected the total cost, and only 20% figured how much it will cost to pay down the debt. So when you're talking about borrowing, you shouldn't leave repayment in a whole totally separate category and not worry about it until time comes to repay. You should know how much you're borrowing and how much it's going to cost you to repay what you are borrowing. There's a tool, many tools and resources, as I mentioned earlier, called the Financial Awareness Counseling Tool, and that can be found through studentloans.gov or studentaid.gov. And this tool has a built-in budget calculator. So we'll import a lot of numbers from your school, and it'll also show you how much you owe. You can also get and use that tool without signing on, even if you don't have any loans. So it's a very, very powerful tool that has some nice graphs and sort of shows you the percentage that you're spending money on in particular categories. And if you're spending, if more is coming out than is coming in. So I highly recommend using that, and it's free. It's on studentaid.gov or studentloans.gov. Okay, let's see. I wanted to just talk a little bit more about the parts of that tool, and there we go. Okay, So the department has entrance counseling when you're getting a loan, also has exit counseling when you're leaving, and FACT is a tool that's in between. Okay, so you can use that at any time. And some of the things that are in here, and there's a lot of useful information, and you don't have to go in here according to regulations in your schools, but it's very, very powerful information. And so part of what I'd like to say and to recommend is you really need to consider being your own advocate here, okay? So there are a lot of tools and a lot of resources, but if you're going to college, it's time to start taking responsibility for yourself and your actions. And so not all of this information may have been taught to you, and not all of it may be spoon-fed to you when you get to school. So there is a certain degree of taking some initiative to understand some of these concepts. So in particular, there's some information on understanding your loans, loan basics, things like interest and term, that free money first concept that we talked about earlier may explain that, the budgeting and how you spend your money in school, living within your means, estimating what you owe. So if you've already borrowed, it will tell you what a payment amount would be in the standard 10-year payment, as well as some other plans, which we'll get to a little bit later on. And also if you want to just sort of hypothetically say, well, if I borrowed $15,000, how much would it cost me? It goes through ways to avoid default. And it talks a little bit about planning your future. It connects to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it gives you information on jobs and earnings. It talks a little bit about taxes that you'll pay on your earnings. Some real life stuff, okay? And it talks a little bit about identity theft and credit cards. And certainly they're very important personal financial concepts, but not ones that we're going to be covering today. So, on the subject of repayment, okay, you really should be thinking about repayment as soon as you borrow, not wait until it's time to repay. The department recently did an in-grace survey. That's the time period that you have after graduation in which you don't have to repay your loans. And it was amazing the number of borrowers who were just totally blindsided by the amount that they owed when it was time to repay. Okay, so you really should make sure that you understand the various repayment plans and other options earlier than just when it's time to repay. You should know the consequences of not paying and the impact on future borrowing and other financial activities. So it's amazing the number of people that are reaching out to the department to talk about their credit reports and the impact that not paying their student loan now has on their ability to buy a house or buy a car. And in many instances, they're offered the privilege of both of those, but they are paying higher rates because their scores don't reflect a very good financial health. So something else to be aware of is that you must repay these loans regardless if you complete your education, if you're unhappy with your school. And that would really be the worst outcome, would be not completing and having student loan debt. And even worse than that, if you don't complete and you do have debt, statistics show that you're 4 times more likely to default. So the department, another tool, okay, and again, studentaid.gov, you can find this tool, and as well as studentloans.gov, but it's the repayment estimator, okay, and so you can actually get numbers on your loans that you have, or you can go in there and you can look at numbers. The department, especially federal loans, have various repayment plans, and so there's the standard 10-year repayment plan, but there are lots of others that can extend the time period that you would repay and allow you to pay less. Ultimately, you will be paying more on the total amount you borrow, but this is another situation about being your own advocate and going in there and taking a look, understanding what you owe, and looking at what you may be repaying when you graduate, or looking at what you may be paying based on what you borrowed to date, and you may consider whether or not you should be borrowing additional funds. So this is a very, very powerful tool, and you should take advantage of it when the situation arises. So I mentioned several times throughout the presentation studentaid.gov, and so that's a huge resource. And so I can't expect you to walk away from the presentation and understand, okay, now I know what a budget is, borrowing and repayment, and understand all of these concepts and be able to recite some of the information that we covered today. But it's a great resource to go to that'll link you to the other tools that we talked about. And it starts from the college preparation, how do I prepare for college, all the way to how do I manage, when you finished, how do I manage my loans. So it's available in English and Spanish, and there's a desktop version as well as a mobile version as well. Other ways that we communicate this information is, oops, and I hope I'm not skipping, yes I am, is, I'm a little bit ahead of the computer here, is through social media. We have a Facebook page. We have quite a number of Twitter followers, and there are lots of videos. The department has videos on YouTube, as well as there are a lot of organizations that are trying to help students understand these concepts. If you go to YouTube and you input FAFSA, you can get a video from the department that explains the FAFSA. There's videos on borrowing, on repayment. Soon to be, there will be a budgeting video, and not exactly a how-to. It's really a fairly simple concept, budgeting. It's a matter of taking the time and tracking your incoming and your outgoing, and understand the power of just knowing those numbers. Additionally, the Federal Student Aid Office has resources that you can download. There's brochures that they can order. Not sure of who the audience is out there. It may be some counselors or some community organizers. So many of the brochures are also in English and Spanish, and there's a resource for a number that you can call if you need help with other languages. Studentaid.gov, don't forget that. So the session is talking about maximizing dollars, okay, for your college experience. So I'd like to talk about some of those tips, and some of them we've talked about during the presentation, and some of these may be new. And I'd like to go to that page. Okay, so maximizing dollars before school. Okay, so don't rule out expensive schools. Okay, I think we talked about that. Let's see, I'm in during school. So more expensive schools may sometimes give you more money. Gotta go back. Sorry, guys. So that's where the net price calculator came in, and we talked about that. Okay, and many give aid for good grades. Okay, so that's kind of a theme here, and that's something that you probably need to be reminded about, maximizing your dollars. But getting good grades in high school and even throughout college can definitely pay off and convert into financial aid. You certainly heard enough about that. But you know, there are employers actually that are asking for your GPA, and I just recently heard of one particular employer, it was in the financial services field, that wouldn't even think about interviewing anyone without a 3.0 grade point average. So studying and getting grades is certainly important. Complete the FAFSA, okay, and look for scholarships when applying to school. And you need to complete the FAFSA every year that you're in school. You don't just complete it one time. Okay, and as I mentioned, that's the gateway really to financial opportunities for college, and many schools require the FAFSA. Accept grants before loans, okay? Free money first, you've heard that. Federal before private, that's another one that you should think of, okay? And so grants is money that you do not have to repay, okay? Grants Federal work study and loans are really the three primary financial vehicles that federal student aid provides students for their post-secondary education. Only borrow what you need. Again, we talked about that. If you do qualify perhaps for additional aid, but you don't have to take all the money that is offered to you, because when you borrow, ultimately that money is going to cost you more. And of course, understand the importance of budgeting and saving. So hopefully at the very least, that concept will be adequately conveyed, and you will take some steps to try and answer the question about some of those numbers and try to put that down on paper. It helps you really to plan and to get organized, and that really can be helpful in so many aspects of your life, not just your financial life. Okay, so the next is during your college experience. Not tremendously different, but a couple of things again, that theme about studying and getting good grades, because you can earn merit dollars in school. If you have a good GPA, reach out. I say stay in touch with your financial aid office. Reach out to your financial aid office and talk to them and maybe tell them that you're looking for some additional aid. If you've got good grades, you've got a lot more negotiating power. If you're not getting good grades and you're struggling in school, you might be considering dropping a class. Well, that's probably going to convert into more money. So be aware of that. If you drop and you drop below half time, it can jeopardize your financial aid. Pardon me. But certainly avoiding dropping a class, is going to extend the period of time that you're in school, which is going to convert into costing you more money. So again, complete the FAFSA again each year. Stay in touch with your financial aid office, as I mentioned already. Consider working part-time, okay, because that's part of the incoming formula, okay? So more money coming in is always good, but you should balance work with school. But if you do have a part-time job, it really helps you with time and money management skills. So it's really important while you're in school to consider doing that. I'm not recommending it for everyone, but it's definitely a powerful tool that can help you with your time and your money management. And again, maintain good records and manage your budget. Okay, this, unorganized people, actually, I think it was Gene Chasky that said they waste 55 minutes a day looking for things. A quick example of being organized is I bought a new printer, and I took the receipt and I put it on the bottom of the printer, and the printer unfortunately broke in short order. Well, I had the receipt, and I was able to go back to the store where I bought it, and they immediately replaced it. Had I not had the receipt, I probably would have spent quite a number of days or hours or whatever looking for the receipt, and I probably would have then in frustration just gone back to get another printer, and I would have paid. So I saved just time and money by being a little bit organized. So budgeting really can help you get organized, can help you plan. It's a living document that changes when your lifestyle changes and your financial situation changes. I would just say to get acquainted with your numbers, and those are some of the simple ones that I talked about earlier, the things that represent what's coming in and what's going out. Keep an eye on your numbers. And I think we all are going to college, hopefully to get good jobs and get good earnings, but really an important lesson, it's not just what you earn and how much money you earn, but it's how you manage what you have. So college and, paying for college is a good time to think about that, acknowledge the importance of that, and start developing good habits that will last you for a lifetime. So you are able to ask questions in the question box, so I'm going to just pop up there and see what's there and see if I can answer. Okay, here's a question. What are good places to get scholarships? And studentaid.gov, as I mentioned, has a link for scholarships. So if you go to that site, you can start looking for scholarships. And don't just think about looking for scholarships before you go to school. You can look for scholarships while you are in school. And as I mentioned, keep a good relationship with your financial aid office. okay, and stay in touch with them and keep good grades. And financial aid offices sometimes may get additional money that they can award to their students after the the regular peak time. So they are looking for students who have a need, and they might be able to place you in a work study job. But you can go to studentaid.gov and look for scholarships there. Let's see, I'm going to just look through for a couple more. Let's see. Okay, someone talked about why should I be worried about paying back my loans even before I've taken them out. Well, I think that the importance of understanding what it's going to cost you, just not to acknowledge the award as if you're getting money and there's not going to be some kind of repayment obligation. That's just, it would be just not, wise to do that. Okay, let's see. I'm looking at another one here. I have to scroll down. How much do you recommend parents give to students? Allowance for, students and parents, that's an interesting relationship when you're going away to college. Someone that I knew actually made sure that his child never bounced a check and just kept looking and seeing if he was overdrawing and then put money back into the account. Okay, I don't think that's a very good way of starting to learn good financial habits. So in terms of parents and students, at a small allowance and having that allowance number be part of the incoming number for students when they are budgeting, okay, is a really important lesson. So I would tend to say parents should give students less, not more, because the more you have, sort of the less you're paying attention, and that really isn't reality. Okay. Someone asked if there's a time after graduation where I don't have to make payments. And yes, generally on federal loans, there is a 6-month grace period. Okay. You will get a notification for those loans from your loan servicer. Okay. And something important, and maybe I didn't mention this, in terms of managing your financial life. Open your emails, open your statements. Okay, there's so many students are not opening the emails or the stuff that's going in the mail from the services, and ignoring it really only makes it worse in the long run. So you borrow money through the Department of Education that funds the school, and you get correspondence from the servicer, okay, who tells you about what you owe and when you need to start repaying. And paying interest during school will save you money ultimately. So. Okay, I think, let's see, I'm going to just scroll down, see if I can see any more questions. It looks like they're all the same theme. Let's see. Yeah. So most of the questions are on the same thing about repaying your loan and budgeting. So I encourage all of you, even if you just go out and do an internet search on budget, the amount of resources are really just beyond. But just start, even the smallest thing, with a notebook, okay? Where you can fold a piece of paper and do 7 days. Track what you're spending. Just taking the time to write things down and knowing your numbers can be extremely powerful for managing your financial life and understanding what you're spending and taking steps to spend less. So there are lots of resources out there, but you really need to understand that you need to be, in many cases, your own advocate and help yourself. But hopefully some of the information that I have provided today, you'll be able to access either now or at a later date, and it will help you maximize your dollars before and during your college experience. Thanks very much for joining. Appreciate your time.